Hey, I'm Alex Radical from BoardGameCom, and this is To Back or Not To Back for the second time in a week, which I think is the first time that's ever happened. Once upon a time, maybe like 3 to 4 months ago, I did say I would do a second one in the same week, and then things happened, and I didn't. So this might be the first time ever that we are having two back or not to backs in the same week. But that's because on Monday I did my Kickstarter to back or not to back. Today I am doing a GameFound to back or not to back. I usually do not split them up, but because I missed last week, there were more campaigns to cover, and I decided to go ahead and split them up into 2 videos. Speaking of which, it is worth mentioning that I am CMO of GameFound. I mention that a lot in different videos, but I don't mention it in every single video. But if I'm doing a dedicated GameFound video, it is worth just double reminding you that, especially because it's also a big Awakened Realms game campaign that we're going to be covering, Agricola. All expansions begin small, sort of, that's kind of what we're doing here. Anyways, with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive into To Back or Not to Back. For those new here, To Back or Not to Back, the series where I go ahead and cover all the crowdfunding campaigns, or at least most of the crowdfunding campaigns, talking about the games, the campaigns, the stretch goals, the pledge levels, all of that and more. And with that, let's go ahead and start off as we usually do with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where I remind you that there are great games to be found not on crowdfunding. Sometimes there are games that were on crowdfunding a year and a half ago, other times there are games that never made their way to crowdfunding, like today, The Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship. I had a chance to play this at, speaking of UKGE, I had a chance to play this at UKGE, really enjoyed it. I played on Board Game Arena since then, enjoyed it not as much. I think it really benefits from that table presence. It was good on BGA, I actually should go back and start a new game, but I liked it much more in person, definitely solid vibes, enjoyed it a lot. This is not a full review, there will be a full review at some point, but I just don't have it yet. But at least for my first 2 plays, one in person, one on BGA, definitely strong recommend this one of the better pandemics that I've played in a long time. That's Fate of the Fellowship over here. Technically, by the way, this is Cult of the Now, supposed to be things that are available now, and this is a pre-order, so it's a little bit Cult of the Future, but I was excited about it because I just played it, so it's our game today anyway. And with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the campaigns. We have 1 in the not funding, we have 2 in the board game adjacent, and then we have a bunch more campaigns to go through, some of which, 2 in particular, are just really long pages that I'm going to do my best to condense as much as I reasonably can. With that said, we have Yinzi. Yinzi, is that how pronounced? Yinzi Ming from Fantasy Games. Previously under the title Yinzi by, oh my gosh, what is the name of the company? Oh my gosh, they do those big, heavy Euro games. I'm blanking on the company, but it was Spielworks, done by Spielworks in the past. This is a re-implementation of that game. Not yet funded, 18,000 euro raise, 180 backers, 5 days left to go. It's gonna be close. I could see it crossing, but it looks a little shy just based on where the campaign is. This is a redone version, a new edition of the original Yinzi, published by Spielworks, so I say that over here. But the main differences, if you are not familiar with Spielworks, is streamlined rules, updated art, and, improved rules, updated art, and then some degree of small streamlinedness to the game, but overall it's mostly the game system, which is going to be 1 part worker placement, 1 part market manipulation. You're going to be defining the copper silver exchange rate, you're going to be choosing various bonuses, then placing various workers, and then having to deal with feeding your various workers, or paying for your various workers, feed and pay for your workers throughout the course of the game. You can be doing that across 4 rounds, and then see who wins in the game. Fairly straightforward as far as, the basic overview, but like most Euro games, the details are in actually playing through the experience. The pledge levels here are going to be 99 euro for the Emperor pledge. That gives you the deluxe upgraded components over here, the acrylic tiles. And then you have the Merchant pledge for 76 euro. That probably does lead into the shipping, the funding challenges, because ultimately coming in at that $100 price point, that's before you even get to shipping, which is going to add another $17 to $27 on top of that. That means you are looking at a fairly expensive starting point for this game, so you have to kind of really want it. It's doable, don't get me wrong, but you really have to kind of sell that deluxe, presentation once you're selling a $100 euro. But with that, we move into the board game adjacent category. We have the Adventurer's Tarot and Compendium for 5e D&D. I know very little about RPG adjacent stuff, but this is a Tarot Empress deck. Beautifully illustrated 103 card oracle that you can use for a variety of things in your D&D system. 331 backers, $25,000 raised, 13 days left to go. I'll just show you stuff and browse the page while I slowly go through the page. Not everything over here, but there's tarot stuff. It's you can use the cards for a variety of different checks and all different kinds of opportunities. It's cool stuff if you like D&D and tarot cards. If you like those 2 things together, you are probably the target audience. If you like one of those things, you might be the target audience. I am not into either of those things, which is why I'm not really the target audience. From there we go to AzureHold, magnetic. Oh, we actually have 3 board game adjacent campaigns. AzureHold, magnetic hand-painted modular tabletop terrain. 44,000 euro raise, 66 backers, 19 days left to go. This gives you modular tabletop terrain, hand painted over here. This is very similar to Dwarven Forge. They actually cover in the FAQ. While they are not associated with Dwarven Forge in any way, it is compatible with Dwarven Forge using the same general sizing and magnetic system. So if you have Dwarven Forge, this stuff will work with you. Will work with that. You can kind of get a sense of it from these campaign pictures over here. They have different systems, all hand painted, and then I'll go through the pledge levels briefly, but it's worth showing you some of these images so you get a general sense of the vibe of what you're getting. It will get increasingly more complex as you go through it, but let's just show you some basics. You can see the walls, the sizing of the tiles. This is the stuff you're going to be assembling and putting together to build out your dungeons. Then you have, of course, deluxeified pieces that will further augment and build them out. You know, you can build beyond the basics with these cooler pieces that will mix up and change up the basic structure of what you're building. Pledge levels are all over the place because there's a lot of different things you can get, from €171 for the hand-painted early bird apprentice. In fact, let me just show you the regular apprentice bundle. If I can go down to over here, if we have the early keeper bundle over here, you can see over here we got what is it? No, that's not the one I want to show you. I want to show you a different one. Where is it? Maybe I'll just show you the 170. Nope. Here we go. Apprentice, hand painted. So this over here, the €180 is going to give you one of these sets over here, and the sets consists of something like that. So 8 corners, 8 walls, 8 arcs, 6 archers. You're gonna look through here to get a general sense of what it's included, but again, you can add a whole lot more to it. So it's kind of up to you as far as how deep into this you want to go. That is going to be the AzureHold magnetic hand-painted modular tabletop terrain. Then we have Sunnygeeks. Sunnygeeks over here coming to you with their 2.0 modular gaming table. Highly recommend watching Tim Schoen's video on this. That's on the campaign page here. So if you scroll through some of these pictures here, there we go. That one over here, that's going to give you a video of the table. I think it's a great presentation of the different things and configurations that the table can have. So if you're interested in what this table can do, great video. Highly recommend that. It'll save you browsing through the whole campaign page, or at least it'll make you decide whether you want to keep browsing through the whole campaign page. But 293 backers, 760,000 euro raise, 16 days left to go. This is a board game table. There's not a ton to cover here that you haven't seen with a dozen other table campaigns. The main things I'd say is watch the video because it does make things look cool, and that will probably gauge whether you are in the target audience for this. Also, obviously, look at the pledge levels. Basic pledge levels coming in at €1,900 or €1,500. Obviously, you're going to have to configure what it is you want with the table, but that's the basic starting point. And then also a very important thing, which is why back now? Here we go. This is a big one over here, which is last chance. This is the final crowdfunding campaign for the Sunnygeeks. After this, tables will be available only at retail and at full MSRP, which is interesting because generally board game tables do a mix of crowdfunding and general ongoing retail presence. It's a good way to continuously, put yourself front and center of people who are, your target audience. But it's interesting to see them say that they're backing away from crowdfunding. They're not doing any more crowdfunding after this. It's going to be only retail and full MSRP. So if you did want their table at a crowdfunding price point or crowdfunding accessibility, that this is your last chance to do so. So that's a big one over here. If you are potentially in the target audience for Wrathseller's campaign, Wrathseller's table, you can't just sit there and say, hey, I'll just get it next time. So and over here, save up to 40%, get exclusive campaign prices, save up to €2,000, the best deal we'll ever offer. The main thing I'll encourage you there is, in general, when campaigns say save X best price, it's not always the best price. It often is save X, but it's not always the best price. Usually with board games, is a standard formula as far as what retail looks like and what online looks like and what crowdfunding looks like. But with tables, I don't know what the Sunnygeeks usually go for. So do your own research before you buy into that. 40% is the best price. It also, by the way, both things can be true. It could be save 40% and it could be the best price because normally you only save 39%. That's also a possibility and very standard for again, this is sales stuff. You guys just pay attention to what's actually out there, not just what's currently listed. It's like Prime Day. Before every Prime Day, if you are someone in the US or someone who buys on Amazon, it's it's a $100 price point and it's $60, $60. And then Prime Day hits $64. Buy now. Sales are sales, and you do have to be mindful of the general ecosystem and the general timeline of things, not just what any one thing is promising. To be very clear, I don't actually know what the normal price point is. I'm not saying Rascals is wrong in terms of what they're saying. I'm just saying crowdfunding in general often oversells that percentage, and it's often not really true. Well, again, not necessarily not true. It's often a incomplete picture at best. That's probably the best, most politest way to put it. Then there's Nexus the card game from Red Sun Games, who have previously done Scarface with 4,400 backers, €535,000, 8 days left to go. Nexus the card game is a fast-paced, two-player card battling system, although they did add a solo mode in this campaign, so you can apparently play it solo as well. Basically, it's going to be a game where you're going to have a bunch of these faction decks. You're going to mix together 2 faction decks. There's a drafting system. You can do it randomly if you want. You could do it because you like the art, or you could use the actual drafting system in order to go ahead and build the 2 faction faction deck combinations, each with their own general playstyle. Are you trying to, like, go through your own deck? Are you trying to put things into your opponent's deck, steal cards from your opponent's deck, go a bit more offensive, build contraptions, all these different things you can do as far as what the deck styles offer, but you're going to mix together those two factions so you can have pirate ninjas or vampire Vikings, whatever it is you want to do as you face off and go head to head. That's the basic, as you try to reduce your opponent's Nexus from 30 health down to 0. That's the basic idea of the game. Draw a card, play a card, do various things, and combine your factions to do so. Whole lots of other things going on in the campaign, lots of stretch goals, lots of add-ons, but basically you're going to have the basic pack for 56 euro, two core games, standard edition, all 16 factions, 254 faction cards, 8 randomizers, 2 life counters, and 1 initiative token. So all the various things you can have over there. All 16 playable factions and 8 randomizer cards times 2. I was like, why do you have 16 factions and only 8 randomizer cards? Are the other ones not ran? But they have times 2. But anyways, that's going to be the basic pack for 56 euro. That does not include all the various extras. The Founders Pack for 68 euro will get you most of the extras, although from there it starts getting into deluxeification things. We have all 16 playable factions. Well, I'll just skip to the basics. We have a deluxe magnetic box, solo mode expansion, Founders Stamp on all the cards, foil randomizer cards, foil card packs times 2, and other GameFound exclusives, which there are a bunch. There's additional factions, additional solo things. There's a bunch of expansions, a bunch of extras in the GameFound exclusives. So that's going to be all the stuff you get for 68 euro as opposed to 56 euro. So additional 12 euro gets you a whole lot of extra content, relatively speaking. But then from there we have the solo mode over here. There's 2 factions currently. I believe there's 1 more in the stretch goals as of right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they add more based on the pacing of the campaign. We have the randomizer cards. We have stretch goals included. The foil randomizers over here. We have the 3 foil card packs. These are going to be an assortment of randomized, I believe, I couldn't tell 100%. It seems like it's randomized foil cards, but there's no gameplay content being locked here. This is all deluxeification as far as, the premium cards, but you're just replacing cards in the game. So you're not getting anything. It says each foil card is the same drop rate. There's no rarity system. It's just random foil cards to replace your game, which I kind of wish they offered just a full foil version for those who wanted to go that route, because buying a whole bunch of packs and then getting a half foil, half non-foil deck, I guess if you're a TCG player, you're used to that. Just seems like a whole lot of searching to get those cards over there. I wish they just offered a full foil system. For 96 euro over here, you're going to get the playmat on top of that. So you get the 2 players playmat over here. 115 euro, you're going to get these playmats plus the deck boxes plus the sleeve packs. And then for 149 euro, you're getting all those things combined. And I believe that's the highest pledge level. Yeah, that's the highest pledge level we got. As far as the various daily reveals, these are additional things being added to the game. We got 2 new factions, Skeletons and Chronomancers. We have the solo mode expansion that you already saw. We have the alternate art cards, the new faction of the Tritons over here, new solo mode faction. So we have, again, 3 new factions plus a solo mode new faction. We have a Dynasty Guardians, so another new faction. We have a foil pack upgrades, new faction Pharaoh's Army, so another new faction. We got 5 new factions so far. New faction Insectoids. We got 6 new factions over here, and then we have 1 solo faction currently. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they add another solo, but also no guarantees. I have no idea what's coming over here. We have Nexus Founders Pack 68. Okay, then there's the pledge levels over here, as well as the various add-ons if you want to mix and match and get whatever it is from there. And you can go ahead and try it on TTS if you are interested in that. But the basics I already told you. You draw a card, play a card, do various things. There's more to the game. You could check out either my review on the game or alternatively a sponsored playthrough that we did as well. That's the basic idea of the game. And then they talk about the various draft modes as far as, all that. That's kind of the main things you need to know. As far as shipping goes, shipping is going to run you between 21 to 33 depending on what, that's euros, depending on what pledge level you're getting. And that is the basics of Nexus, the card game over here from Red Zen Games. Then we have Sniper Elite, Operation Kraken, and Reprint. 157,000 pounds raised, 1,600 backers, 8 days left to go. This is basically 2 expansions, 1 modular, 1 map-based to Sniper Elite. Sniper Elite is a hidden movement game, which one player plays as a sniper, and the other players play as the soldiers who are trying to capture and entrap that sniper as the sniper wanders around the map, trying to accomplish their objectives, not necessarily trying to kill the soldiers along the way, but it certainly does happen from time to time. It's also kind of fun to take a little pot shot and then just disappear into the woods. Although people do figure out a little bit where you are, but not necessarily enough to capture you, and they take time to respond, so there's also that. But anyway, Sniper Elite, lots of content on the original game out there, generally well rated, well received. Again, lots of content from reviews, gameplays, how to play, so you can check out a ton of content on the previous Sniper Elite. The new content over here is going to be Operation Kraken, as well as the new equipment over here, specifically Escalation. So I guess, strictly speaking, you have the Ultimate Sniper Pledge, which gives you everything for 140 euro. We have 140 pounds, 139 pounds. We have Operation Kraken for 40 £40. We have new equipment, which is all the new stuff for £55 over here, and then we have the expanded loadout, which gives you, if you already have the Sniper Elite core game, for £99 you get all the other things. But what's included in that, well, we have Operation Kraken, and then we have the escalation. Operation Kraken is going to be what you see over here. We got 2 new maps effectively. That's the main thing. It's like a few little extra stuff, but it basically comes down to more maps for the game. So we got 2 new maps for the game, one giving you a village with a vehicle, something new, and then another giving you this boat over here, or submarine boat, whatever it is, in which you're going to be the super carrier, but you are operating in levels, so you don't really move the same way you normally do in a typical Sniper Elite map. Rather, you can go through the vents or the ladders to move from level to level as you go through the 3 levels of the super carrier. Outside of that, the escalation expansion is going to introduce a bunch of modular stuff. So modular expansion, we got the little good boy miniature over here, a little dog you can use as the sniper. We have the Hunter miniature, the Advantage cards, Elite Specialist cards, upgraded loadouts, Sniper mission cards, Defender mission cards, a bunch of basically modular stuff you can add to your core game. It's a small box expansion, not a ton of extra content going on there, but just small little things you can add to the game. That's the basics of the game. Hidden movement, well received so far, more expansion content for it, giving you two new expansions to add to the game. Shipping is going to run you depending on what you get over here. We got single wave shipping for January 2026 over here, which is going to be, let's say if you're in the US, you're looking at 24 to 50. And if you want 2-wave shipping, it's 42 to 37. So that's going to be if your pledge contains reprint items from the original Sniper Elite campaign and new items, then you will not be able to choose to pay a single shipment. So it depends on what you're getting. You do want to pay attention to what you're getting over there if you're getting certain stuff over there. Anyways, that is going to be Sniper Elite, Operation Kraken, and reprint. And then we have Dawn of Madness Complete Edition from Dimension Games. 2,657 backers, $580,000 raised, 13 days left to go. This is a reprint and expansion from Dawn of Madness. This is also one of the longest crowdfunding campaigns I have ever seen. Like, not just today, one of the longest crowdfunding campaigns I have ever seen. I'm not sure if it's the longest, but one of the longest for sure. So I'm going to try to distill everything going on here to the short basics. And let's start with the very short basics. Dawn of Madness is a horror narrative experience. The basic idea is you're going to take control of a central wanderer and then any other wanderers in the game. The central wanderer is the story that you are playing through. So when you have a typical character in a game, in this game, that character is the story that you're exploring. So if you're playing a 3-player game, you're going to pick one of the characters to be the main story effectively, and you're going through their backstory. Along the way, you're basically going to be making a lot of skill checks in the game. So lots of skill checks, a lot of mitigation, a lot of trying to build up your characters, gather items and things that will help you along the way. But the core experience is a narrative experience where you're going to be exploring the 16 locations on the board in order to interact with the various locations and then prime into your central wanderer's backstory. That's effectively what's going on here. In a very branching storyline, it's going to have you moving towards various ending points in order to unlock 40 story points where you can then go into a final boss encounter. No single playthrough is going to introduce you to all the elements of your character, so you can definitely get a lot of your backstory throughout multiple playthroughs. And then of course, each of the 4 characters in the base game, or 8 characters total, have their own full story, as well as content, legacy content that is going to be unlocked as you go through their stories. You can unlock stuff that shows up in their stories in future games. That's going to be true for the bosses you fight against, as well as the central wanderers. So that's the core idea. Narrative experience, lots of reading, lots of skill checks and mitigation, but that's kind of what you got. If you want to see a full playthrough of this, I believe Meet Me at the Table, or Meet Me at the Table. I think it's Meet Me at the Table. Did a fantastic playthrough that is definitely worth watching if you want to get a good sense or feel for how the gameplay plays out, as well as the narrative feel of it. That's the backstory of, well, Dawn of Madness. What is new in this campaign? They kind of cover this over here, so we got all the new stuff. I'll break down the pledge levels too, but the new content is Sins of the Lost, the Chasteners, Save System, Upgrade Pack, Audio Narrative, and Spectrum Sentience dice over here. So dice are cool dice, so you got cool dice. That's pretty simple. Sins of the Lost is going to be the 7 deadly sins that replace the abominations as the main horror you are fighting against in the core experience, along with rule changes to them. So they're supposed to be slightly more streamlined, but they give you something else as far as the main big bad you are facing off against, so more variety to the experience. Now the Chasteners, I don't remember if these replace things or get added, but these are kind of extra little miniatures you can fight against, extra bosses or enemies that you can fight against in different ways that don't replace the main abomination but get added to the game. The save system is because Dawn of Madness has a lot of things going for it, but it is a very long experience. Dawn of Madness can easily play out anywhere between 6 to 10 hours is not unreasonable at all, especially for your first play. It is a long game, and so you either want a table with a covering, or alternatively a save system, which they are adding over here. The upgrade pack is exactly what it sounds like. This upgrades from the first edition if you have that, and then audio narrative. So that's kind of the new content you can get at a glance. As far as pledge levels, go to pledge levels over here, because again, I'm trying to give you one of the longest pages I've ever seen in a shorter form. $489 is going to be the gameplay all in. It's worth noting right about now that you can go down to $459 if you don't care about the Faces of the Sphere. The Faces of the Sphere is something that's for Deep Madness, which is their other game system. So if you don't have Deep Madness, you probably want this gameplay all in, because the other gameplay all in is this game, plus a little bit for that other game. So it's worth calling that out right away, in case you're one of the 298 people who back this. Some of those people do not have Deep Madness, don't plan on getting Deep Madness, and probably didn't read far enough down the page. The upgrade pack over here is exactly what it sounds like, $1, plain and simple. You can add whatever add-ons you want. Then we have the new essentials. This is all the new content. If you're someone who wants the new stuff, you already have the old stuff, $119 gets you the upgrade pack, save system, Sins of the Lost, all of that stuff together for one pledge. And then there's various other pledges, but the other one I want to point out is the Otherworld Experience upgrade. This is for people who have the original other campaign, but you want to go from basically a base game to near complete over here, and then from there you can kind of fill in the other pledges to see exactly what else you care about. But lots of content over here. The base game itself is going to give you a lot of stuff for the game. There's a lot of content going on in this game. Again, those 4 Central Wanderers will give you a lot of game time. Do you want those other 4 Wanderers? Perhaps, because, you know, you and me both, we like that extra content, whether or not we get to it or not. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can get in this Dawn of Madness campaign. Then there's the various stretch goals and stuff, things that are unlocked. Nothing too crazy as far as the stuff, like more content for the game, but there's plenty of content as it is. And then you can individually break down what you want to add, if you want to individually pick and choose what goes into your game. That's the core page broken down without going into, again, the amount of stuff that they've gone into. Shipping is going to run you, depending on what you're getting. If you're in the US, you're looking at $25 to $85, $25 being for the core game on its own. If the new essential is going to be $27, if you want to get the gameplay all in, that's going to be $85. So just factor those obviously into your pledges as you back this. And that is Dawn of Madness from the Complete Edition collection from Dimension Games, kind of broken down in the probably fastest way I can do. Agricola Special Edition from Awakened Realms. This is our second last campaign of the day. We have 2,388,000 euro raised, 10,000 backers, 15 days left to go. Agricola Special Edition is exactly what it sounds like. It's similar to the way that Awakened Realms has done Castle of Burgundy and then Puerto Rico. We now have Agricola. They're basically slowly going through all the top 100 euros, trying to get as many of them as they can, and Agricola does feel like a natural next step after doing Puerto Rico. But basically, Agricola is going to be taking that classic game, currently number 60 on BGG. I don't think, did Agricola ever make its way to number 1? I think Agricola was a number 1 game at one point, right? I could be wrong with this. Puerto Rico certainly was. Castle of Burgundy, shockingly enough, has never been a number 1 game. It should be, though. And Agricola definitely has been a number 1 game. I say definitely. I'm pretty sure it has been a number 1 game. But either way, Agricola is getting the deluxe treatment over here with a whole lot of options to go through. Similar to Dawn of Madness, although not quite as bad. This is a very long page, and I'm going to do my best to distill it in a reasonable time frame for you. But the number 60 game on BGG, it's getting the Awakened Realms treatment. If you've seen Puerto Rico, I would say it's more similar to Puerto Rico than Castle of Burgundy, but still similar all the same. The core notes to hit upon right now is, well, let's talk about Agricola. Agricola is a worker placement farming game. That's basically what it is. It's a farming simulator in which you're going to place workers across the rounds of the game in order to gather resources and work your way towards the best endgame points, which is usually going to be a well-balanced structure. You want to have a little bit of everything, a little bit of crops, a little bit of animals. You want to kind of balance your stuff in order to get as many points as possible in the game while placing your workers out each round and trying to build and gather resources and build the stuff you need to build. One of the core systems of Agricola that makes it very special is the sheer variety of cards the game has, because every single game has a core structure. Like 90% of the game is on the table in front of you and doesn't really change game to game. But that other 10%, almost similar to a Feast for Odin if you've played that, revolves around the sheer variety of cards you're going to have. Players are going to start the game with cards, have opportunities to get more cards, and it's going to give you a ton of ways that are going to slightly tweak your advantages. So playing a game of Agricola with one set of cards versus another set of cards is a completely different experience. If you get one more wood every time you go to a location, that's going to completely change the way you approach the game, and so the sheer card variety is one of the things that Agricola is known very well for. I'm also focusing on that very heavily because this campaign gives you the opportunity to get everything all at once in one place, which doesn't matter if you're interested in the special edition or not. That is something that's definitely a draw for players who kind of want everything, not to mention the sheer amount of stuff that's being added as stretch goals as far as more card variety, including new expansions that are not otherwise available. That's kind of Agricola at a very high level. As far as the pledge over here, let's go. Do we want pledges? Do we want let's do this over here. So the core box is going to be available. So is the Farmers of the Moor expansion that's going to be baked in over here. So all pledge levels, I believe all pledge levels, come with Farmers of the Moor. This is kind of giving you an all-in-one system. There are different pledges as far as the deluxification differences going on here, as far as what you're getting, but as far as the gameplay content, it's mostly pretty similar, I believe. We have all other gameplay expansions. 5th and 6th player is an add-on. So the 5 to 6 player set for Agricola, that's going to be an add-on that's not baked into the core box, but it's kind of semi-contrary to what I just said, but I think everything's here over here. Then we have all the card packs. All the various card packs that have been put out are collected, including a single pack that's going to contain all the promos put out, or I shouldn't say all. many promos, hard to find promos. I don't want to say all for sure, but that's basically a lot of gameplay content all in one place. That's everything you get over here. And then you also have the irrigation expansion, as well as over 170 new cards being added to the game system, which is a whole lot of stuff. And the irrigation expansion is being developed together with Uwe Rosenberg, as well as another designer too, but that's going to be a new gameplay expansion, similar to the way Castle of Burgundy and Puerto Rico both offered new gameplay expansions. Although this one seems more similar to the Vineyards in terms of the depth it adds. For Puerto Rico, it was kind of like a bunch of achievements, which does kind of change the way you play the game, but nonetheless, not nearly as impactful as Vineyards. This seems to be more Vineyards level, similar to Castle of Burgundy. That's the core idea of the campaign, of what Agricola is, what's in this campaign, and now we're going to break it down into the individual gameplay content differences, because I think that's really worth covering. So we have kind of showing you the campaign, what you got over here as far as the stuff. I'm going to go through things, calling out there's 3 core levels. There's going to be the standard, the special, and then the minute standard, deluxe, and then there's miniatures. Okay, so the deluxe level pledge, in fact, let's talk about the price points, because I think that'll give you some more context over here. So for a price point over here, we have the standard edition, which is the card edition for €79. We'll talk more about some thoughts around price points, but Agricola standard edition for €79, going to give you the basic edition with all the cardboard components. We're going to show you what that looks like very shortly. Then we have the wooden edition for €109, that's €30 more. That's going to be giving you all the wooden components, so a decent upgrade over here, so already pretty decent upgrade. Then we move to the family farm pledge. That's going to give you, I believe, we have the 3D family miniatures over here, so you're getting some of the additional 3D content over here for €164. And then you're going to the grand homestead pledge. That's going to be giving you the additional 3D resources and 3D houses for €219. So again, you can click through any of these individual things, but I'm trying to show you the main difference between what you get in each pledge. Then for €278 over here, you're also getting basically everything for the 5 to 6 player expansion. So you're also getting this one over here, as well as the 5 to 6 player set over here. So those additional 2 items giving you the full 3D experience for 5 to 6 players. And then we have the Master of the Lands pledge, which gives you all the various extras, so like the acrylic packs, the alternative player boards, play mats, sleeves, art book, all creatures big and small. Yes, they are doing a version of that too, as well as a secret 3D minis expansion. Look for updates to learn more. So that's all you're getting for the $459 Master of the Land pledge. It's just a whole lot. Here's the thing to focus on, okay? You can get a pretty decent, lots of cool stuff included here for €109, and even if that price point scares you a little bit, factor in the sheer price point of Agricola plus Farmers of the Moor. If you're just getting those things, and then all the individual card packs, this is a bargain of a price. Yes, you can also spend €459. You certainly don't need to. It depends on what you're kind of looking for here. But if you are looking at just the gameplay content you are getting out of this, it is an absolute bargain relative to the price point to getting all those things separately. So there's a lot of good gameplay content here for a reasonable price point, and then there's also the €459 for those who are absolute fans of Agricola. Now that I kind of showed you that, because I want you to focus on 3 main things. There's €79, the cardboard edition over here, €109 for the wooden edition, and then after that you're going up to $164 or more, and also Sundrop will cost you more too, depending on what else you want to add miniatures wise. Because now with that, let's go ahead and show you what you get, because that will help frame everything you're seeing over here. So we got the basic content over here. We have the wooden, the various tiles that go onto the field, onto the board. We have the worker meeples. This is going to be for the wooden edition. These are meeples. We have 20 cardboard worker standees. I don't know about you, as much as I think €79 is a great price point, I don't want to play a worker placement game where I'm placing standees with the little plastic thing. That's just me. It is the cheapest price point. I'm not pulled in by that standard edition pledge at all. The miniatures expansion. These are going to be cool, but miniatures are not necessarily necessary, especially for a worker placement game. Often wooden meeples are nicer. So yes, you can start going up to miniatures, but there's a reason 6,000 people have backed that standard €109 pledge, because it is very compelling from a pure gameplay content without going full deluxification, which you certainly don't need to. So that's going to be the miniature content over here. Now we're going to see all that, but again, that's the 3 framings. We got cardboard, we got wooden meeples, and then we have miniatures. That's the 3 basic things you're going to see throughout this page. We have the various wooden animals. We have the cardboard tokens, which might look better in person. These don't look great at all. And then we have the miniatures, which honestly, as much as I don't mind the miniatures for the people, I think I kind of prefer the meeples for the animals over here. Then we have these are still in progress, but we have wooden stables, cardboard stables, and then miniature stables. That's still in progress. They don't show that there. We have the standard cardboard fences. We have the 60 wooden fences, and then we have miniature fences. Honestly, this is the best miniatures I've seen so far. Those fences, they do look pretty nice around the player board if you see them. And having played the Puerto Rico edition, some of the miniatures there are pretty solid. Like, it's always tough. Like with Castle of Burgundy, I use some of the miniatures and not all of them. I often find myself defaulting to the acrylics, so it is hard to balance what you think will look best on the table. But if you're looking at spending €459 for the all-in, suddenly it becomes a drop easier to balance. Then over 1,600 cards for the game. Again, this goes back to the sheer variety of the gameplay experience. Every game of Agricola is going to play out differently when you combine these different sets of cards. Then we have the wooden resources. We also have the cardboard token resources, and then we also have the miniature resources too. So again, you can see that breakdown of the different types of things you're seeing. That's kind of the main stuff I wanted to show you. Oh, I guess we show you some of the stretch goals, because there are some things as far as stretch goals go. I'm going to scroll past some of the expansion. There's more again, Agricola Farmers of the Moor, added horses. There's additional things that are added. We have all the decks, if you want to see all the various decks, the Changelings, the O deck, the L deck, the X deck, the CZ deck, the Gamers deck, the NL deck, I'm skipping some. We got Belgian deck, the Pi deck, the Fans deck, the Z deck, through the seasons, which is a small little mini board over there. And then the promotional set, rare promos gathered in one pack. So they're basically going to have a bunch of different promos being added together in one area. But it doesn't say all promos, it says rare promos. So that's why I have that distinguishing aspect earlier. Then we have various things over here. We have Day 1 Irrigations, a brand new expansion, co-designed by Uwe Rosenberg and Thomas Zadecki, created exclusively for this deluxe edition. So it's going to add irrigations to the game with, again, different types of irrigation content depending on what you're adding as far as the physical components of it. Then we have Animal Husbandry, Agriculture and Crops. These are all new cards. So again, more new cards being added to the game, a ton of new cards, until we get to over here, Day 3 Mills. They add Mills, a shared action module to the game, so something else you can add, as well as mill tokens and mill miniatures if you get the 3D Houses expansion. Then we have trees, so we have fruit trees that are being added as a new component as well. The full irrigation expansion map, okay, there we got that. And we have fishing and water activities, more new cards that are slowly being unlocked as we get to things. So again, this is a ton of gameplay content here. If you are an Agricola fan, there's so much gameplay content here that you can get for a reasonable price point. That €109 is reasonable. Forget reasonable. It's downright cheap relative to the amount of content you can get over here, how much this stuff would cost separately. But outside of that, once you start going to deluxifications, now you're just going into, hey, I want my cool board games to look as cool as possible, which is totally fine, but that's where it starts pricing you out all the way up to €459, including especially if you want those acrylic standees over there, not standees, the acrylic tokens, because that's like acrylic tokens from, where is it? Where do I see them individually? I don't know where they are. Where are they? Acrylic pack. So like, no, that's not. That's 5 to 6 player, but honestly, I think that's fine. Let's just show you the acrylic pack over here. Acrylic. Here we go. The acrylic pack. Like, acrylic stuff does look very cool. Like with Castle Burgundy, that's what I use the most. It's a nice premium feel to it. You don't need it, but especially if you're trying to decide between miniatures and acrylics, I'd say go acrylics. Just based off Castle Burgundy, I can't say how this one will play out. But yeah, that's the basics over here. Lots of money you can spend, all the way up to €459, but as little as €79 or 70, I think €79, or was it €70? I can't remember exactly anymore. And then we have shipping. Shipping's going to run you between 30 to 66. Tariffs would be separate. If there are any tariffs will be separate. But we don't know the state of tariffs because the world is still crazy, even if it is calming down a little bit. That is Agricola Special Edition from Awakened Realms. And with that, we move to our last campaign of the day, the Battle of the Divas from Salt and Pepper. 421 backers, 16,000 euro raised, 22 days left to go. Salt and Pepper, the Battle of Divas is a 2-player war without... I always forget the term. It's part of their battles without weapons, or war without weapons, something like that, whatever it is. They have this series of duel games that are not about actual combat, but rather about the thematic duel of things. But it's basically the Battle of the Divas. It's a 2-player game, which you're going to be controlling the various divas as you go head-to-head trying to win in these various operas. It's basically a card-driven system. You're going to play a card to an opera, do a bunch of things depending on the card, and then eventually also be playing cards into a timeline that you have to be mindful of as well. All while managing the individual competition in the operas, how you score points, applause in those various arenas as you try to win those operas, and once 5 operas have been won, you'll determine who won the game. Lots more going on. That's a very short general overview of what the game is doing. The game is going to run you, we got €35 for the game. That's including the Palco Real expansion as well, so you do get that if you want. Or we have the Battle of Divas for €23 on its own. In general, Salt and Pepper Games has a lot of these solo or 2-player games that are generally pretty well received. You can check out a variety of review content on this game already. They usually put out their games to a lot of people before the campaign, so you can see a lot of content on it. And then shipping's going to run you if you're in the US, €14 for 1 additional copy of the game, which again brings you from €23 to €37. One of the downsides of Salt and Pepper Games is the fact that their games are on the smaller side, so getting their games, once you factor in shipping, is always a little harder on crowdfunding, but some of their games make their way very well into retail. 20th Century Games is a lot of their stuff, but other games are not as readily available, so that's always the trade-off as far as what you do there. That's kind of what we got as far as the campaigns for today, which means means it is time for our picks of the week. Picks of the week, as usual, we have a personal interest pick of the week and a value pick of the week. And also, same as with my video on Monday, they're the same game. This time, though, slightly for different reasons. Well, not different reasons, same reasons. We have Agricola. Agricola is both the value pick of the week easily, as well as my personal interest pick of the week, because Agricola is always a game that I enjoyed, and it's always one that I've debated getting back, but not one that I've actually pulled the trigger on. It's the card content. That card variety is the main thing that always has me interested in this one because of how good it is. I just think I'm more of a Caverna fan, which is why I currently have Caverna over Agricola, but both are fantastic games. But this is easily my pick of the week just because it's a deluxe, like, Awakened Realms with the deluxe editions. Castle Burgundy I already loved, but Puerto Rico, they managed to sell me on that one when I didn't love the original quite as much. But the playing it with the deluxe presentation does improve the gameplay experience. So Agricola is easily the value pick of the week, the one that's most worth getting now on crowdfunding, and it's also my personal interest pick of the week. But also, as I did with Monday, because I try to give them to different games, I will shift my personal interest pick over to Sniper Elite. It's a hard one to balance because for me, I'm more of a mind management person as far as my preferred hidden movement game, but I do think Sniper Elite is an excellent experience that is a lot of fun to play through. It's one of those games that I enjoy watching someone else play as much as I enjoy playing, as much as I enjoy playing on either side. So this is definitely a very solid game that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't already. I think it's a great hidden movement game that is really well done, very streamlined. It's one of the easier ones to move as far as the ease of the system. It's like a few core concepts you have to learn, you can pop straight into the game. It's one of the easiest, it's probably the easiest to best ratio as far as hidden movement games go. And that's going to be the campaigns, which brings us to the upcoming. We have one upcoming campaign similar to what we did over last week on Monday. We have Champions of Rokugan launching in 6 days from Monolith Games, giving you a the Legend of the Five Rings on your table in a I'm not entirely sure what kind of game it is, like dungeon crawler, area control. It's got miniatures. It's got cool miniatures, and it's Legend of the Five Rings. Champions of Rokugan will be launching in 6 days. And with that, that has been your 2 Back or Not to Back, the second one in a week. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. My friend Elsa had the sniffles this week, and I told her she should go to the doctor, but she decided not to. Turns out the cold didn't bother her anyway.